Let's switch things now from Annalise to Trudy. Trudy McIntosh, she's in Washington, D.C. for us just 2 days after the attempted assassination on the former President Donald Trump. New details have emerged this morning about the attack, Trudy.
Well, Pete, we've heard from the FBI. They've confirmed that they've been searching forensically the house of the shooter here. They have now confirmed that they've been able to get into his phone, but as of yet still unable to ascertain the motive for this attempted assassination at that rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday local time. Donald Trump, so lucky to be alive, he acknowledged that himself to the New York Post, pointing out that he had just turned his head slightly to look away, and that is when the bullet grazed his ear. Incredibly lucky for the president. But the questions turn to the security matters here. How was this man able to be on top of a rooftop so close to this rally? That is the question that is now before the FBI. There is an independent investigation too into the conduct of the Secret Service, whether they did enough due diligence ahead of this event. And security, it must be said, is going to be bolstered for other candidates. You'll see that for JD Vance now that he is the vice presidential pick. He gets a bolstered security detail, and we've seen confirmation from the Homeland Security Secretary here that security and Secret Service will be provided to Robert Kennedy Jr., another presidential candidate, to ensure we don't see something like this attempted again in the lead up to this November election. This was the Homeland Security Secretary here in DC today talking about this failure and how it must not happen again.
When I say that something like this cannot happen, we are speaking of a failure. We are going to analyze through an independent review how that occurred, why it occurred, and make recommendations and findings to make sure it doesn't happen again. I couldn't be clearer.
Well, the US President Joe Biden and his Vice President were briefed in the Situation Room here in Washington today by law enforcement officials. But this has been a big change in the conversation here in America. The Democrats suspending their attack ads they had against Donald Trump, toning down some of that rhetoric we'd seen, people referring to Donald Trump as a threat to democracy, that sort of language not coming out of senior players now in the wake of that attempted assassination. But it's changed the conversation too for Joe Biden in terms of those calls for him to leave the race, to hand over to his Vice President Kamala Harris to take on Trump. We have not seen a new Democrat add their voice to those calls since this attempted assassination. But the question for Joe Biden will not go away in terms of whether he is up for the job going forward for another 4 years. That will be tested once again tonight here in America. He sat down for this pre-recorded interview with NBC News. Only the second sit-down he's done since that disastrous debate performance. Every single minute and answer of that interview, Pete, will be monitored very closely to see how Joe Biden is faring.